Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Living Lives. We are recording this live, but it is not actually live today when it's being streamed because of scheduling conflicts. So we're actually recording this on Sunday, and it will be streamed on Tuesday as usual. So today I have a wonderful guest, Domini Antoinette. She's a yoga teacher and mindfulness coach, and she helps women release self-doubt, build self-compassion, and embrace who they are through yin and restorative yoga, mindfulness practices, and daily rituals. And she's passionately driven to guide and empower others to prioritize their mental well-being, focus on self-development, and challenge themselves to level up. And this really resonated with me because I do a lot of the same things using different tools. So one of the things, I always start with essential oil. So what's in my diffuser today? Well, today I have the essential oil blend Align, which is one of doTERRA's yoga blends. But Align calls the soul back to its center. It reaches gently into the heart space to shift heavy energies that are inhibiting progress and disrupting stillness and flow. And I thought, what better oil to use than Align for the discussion we're going to have today. So let's welcome Domini to the program. Welcome, Domini.
Hello, beautiful souls.
How are you?
I'm doing amazing. Thank you so much.
That's good. Thanks for joining me today. And, let's start, if you don't mind, with telling us a little bit about how you got to where you are now, to give our viewers a little bit of a background of you and what you do.
Yes. Okay. So this journey of mine to where I am now started, I'll say around 4 years ago. But even before that, I've been in the healthcare field. I have my bachelor's in health administration and my master's in public health. So I've always been wanting to help people. So then 4 years ago, I was going through a divorce and going through a life transition, discovering who I was. I came to a point where I wasn't happy at work or at home. But then I realized it wasn't either work or home. It was actually, I wasn't happy with myself. And then just that aha moment, I'm like, wow, so if I'm not happy with myself, I realized that we can have control over how we feel about a certain situation rather than let a situation control us. So that's when my whole mindset shifted. And I was researching. I was on this adventure, I would say this up and down adventure that I was trying to figure out, who do I want to be in this world? And really asking myself those deep questions. So that was a lot of Google, and then a lot of just faith that things would come into my life. And it wasn't until I found life coaching. I went online. I'm like, oh, life coaching it sounds really nice. And so I ended up doing a certification in it. And as I was doing it, like so many things became clearer. And then I'm like, okay, I have to life coach myself, because at the end of the day, it was only me looking at myself in the mirror. No matter what was going on in my outside life, I realized that I needed to have a different perspective on what was going on in my life, and how, okay, even though this is not something that is, doing well for me right now, how can I actually take this opportunity of this experience to help me grow and to become a better person? So within that, I started to take care of myself, because it was me who had like the bad, the negative mindset, mm-hmm. the anger, the resentment, the guilt, and all of that. So now I've been on this journey, life coaching myself. And then as I'm going on, I'm making my life organically happen right now. I was trying to force things to happen, but as I'm working on myself, my energy becomes an attraction to who's supposed to be drawn to me.
That's fantastic. And, you talked about a couple things that are near and dear to some of my favorite words. You talked about connection with yourself. You talked about adventures. And, my brand is Adventures in Connection. And while you help women, I help men connect back to themselves to begin the greatest adventure of their lives. And, there's a lot that you do and that I do, even though we work with different populations of people that are similar. So, you use yoga, I use essential oils and massage, you use life coaching, I have some other mentor programs and things that I do. So I think there's a simpatico, if you will, between us with the type of work that we do. So, you on your Facebook page, you have that physical health and emotional well-being are directly tied to your mental state. That, as you said in your intro there, is really so true. And that joy and laughter are healers. So, I'm kind of known for my laugh in a few places because it tends to be boisterous. And I always say, I agree with you. Laughter is the best medicine. So, any thoughts on those?
Yes, I believe that. So many times I was, you're going through a life transition, and I believe everyone, whether it's you're a man or a woman, we all are souls in this earth, trying to find our way, right? And that's, like you said, the connection. But within that, to find that connection, it is an adventure. And there are going to be moments, where we do cry, where we do have to let it out, those emotions. But as you grow, and now as I look back, I could just laugh at it. I'm like, wow, what a beautiful story. I'm here today to tell other women or me, other men that I inspire, that you can do anything that your heart desires, whatever dreams you had, underneath all that, social conditioning, the judgments, or what people have said about you. Those are the things. Like I used to swim, so I'm like, you got to swim through that. You got to go through.
Mm-hmm.
You have to understand that that's not you. You have to figure out who you are. And I believe that's life's greatest adventures. And find that laughter and that humor in it all will help you heal, for sure.
Like I always say, if you can laugh at yourself, you'll never cease to be amused, right? One of your Instagram posts a little bit ago was, and it kind of goes back to your swimming, I guess. When we dive into the unknown, the sweetest treasures are found.
Yeah.
So, diving into the unknown of ourselves is really important. And I know that for me, self-development is key, because when we stop growing, we die. Really, and if we don't die physically, we die. You see people that retire and don't do anything, and then they just decline rather than having, joy in things, because they stopped doing and stopped growing.
Mm-hmm.
So go ahead.
Yes, you just reminded me of a quote. Don't die with the music still inside of you.
Oh, I like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so that just goes with what you're saying, that, we have to jump into the unknown, because that's where we find. And so they say, like, people are living, but they're actually dead. And, I use these terms, and, death could be really, like, just that word can be, it could, that's why I said, like, it's like your perspective on certain things. Like, for me, I'm just like, that is so true. Like, because I was at one point, I was walking around like feeling like dead, because I wasn't finding joy in the things that I already have. Like, how beautiful it is that I did experience a marriage. How beautiful it is that I experienced a divorce at such a young age, and now at this moment in my life, I could be, okay, a grown and mature woman, and say, okay, these are the things that I would have done better back then, but now I my life, but I can help other people change their lives.
Yeah. And you take, your experiences, and you grow with that, and taking what you learned, because you took the time to learn from it, you can now apply that to relationships going forward.
Mm-hmm.
And help your clients, I'm sure, as well, work through what, see the joy in what they have. And, there's a study that was done that showed that, the difference between happy people and grateful people. And they said that people who had a lot to be grateful for were happy, but it was really more the people who took the time to be grateful, or happy people had a lot to be grateful for, but it's really the grateful people who were more happy because they took the time to notice what they had. And, one of the things that I always suggest to people is to have a gratitude practice, whether you start the day with it or end the day with it or both, or just write down something at the end of the day. I used to keep a joyful jar. And what I would do is I would write down something I was joyful for that happened that day. And I did it for 3 years. And it was amazing because the days you have really bad days, there was always something you could be joyful for. And even if it was just getting out of bed in the morning. But you could also reach into the jar and say, I need some joy, and pull something out and read what was something to inspire you about, I was joyful about that. I can be joyful about that again. So it's, I think, a gratitude practice in that respect ties in with, the type of stuff that you were talking about, and seeing what is important and what you learned from it, and to be able to rejoice in what other people might perceive as a bad thing, like a divorce, that, you learned something, and be joyful of the fact that you had that marriage in the first place, so that's a beautiful, that's a beautiful thought. And so many people who've gone through that don't have that thought, because all they have is the pain from the end, and they don't think of the joy from the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
So, you have a number of yoga communities that I see, and I'm assuming they're just different places that you teach on a regular basis. But your mission is to restore health and hope in humanity. Want to comment on that and how that works for you?
Yes. Oh my gosh, I love my community yoga circles. So, like I said, I was, studying, studying life. I would say studying about life, and then just last year, this year, I obtained my yoga certification.
Congratulations.
So boxing too, last year. And so, with boxing, you're stretching, and, I was already meditating, and I didn't even know, like, I was already doing yoga. I just didn't know what yoga really was, just stretching. And my mentor suggested it to me, and I was like, wow, like, yes. And so I did that right away. And it was just for me. Like, I just felt like, okay, this was the path that I was going to take, because you just find so much on the mat. And so once I, graduated, I'm like, okay, I want to bring a community together and just let them know, one, what is yoga? Because yoga, sometimes we think it's like, oh, doing a headstand and like doing all these beautiful poses on the beach, and like putting our like foot over our head. And it isn't that. It's actually, that's the physical practice, which is a little bit of what yoga is about. What yoga is about is, when you're in those poses, how are you, like, focus on your breath, focus on your inhale, focus on your exhale, focus on your self-talk. How are you talking? When you fell out of pose, were you judgmental to yourself? No, let's come back and be more compassionate. And this is how I start teaching my clients on the mat. This is where you start to learn about yourself. Even when we do affirmations, how do you feel? Like, did that like kind of jerk something in you? Maybe that's some area that we need to work on then. And so, so I started doing them in the community at, parks in Pasadena, California, and just bringing people together, bringing that laughter, having fun. My yoga practices, put on some good music, some sage, some Palo Santo, just clear the space, a place where people just can come and just like, wow, like, there are good people in this world, and, my hope is for them, it's like, your health is important. Number one, your mental health is important. So let's start there. And then also, bringing them hope, because I'm bringing like different people together, like different people show up every time. So it's like, who, like, who's going to be showing up, and then like they can find hope, because there's not a lot of things out there that people can do. Because that's what I found going on this adventure of mine. Like, I was like, I need connection. I need, and over Zoom, you know, it's different than now. It's like, okay, let's bring us back to health and hope. So that's my mission for my community yoga.
That's beautiful. And I'm sure it looked like from your Instagram that you have a number of different community groups, because I saw them numbered and I saw at least a 7 on one of them. So that's kind of great. Are they large classes or small classes?
Yeah, they're usually like small, medium sizes.
Okay.
So what I do, it's every month on the third Sunday. And so, you know, I put it out there, you know, people want to join, they can come to my yoga circle. So it's always different. And that's what I love about yoga. Yoga, it's for everyone, right? It was actually created by a man, for men. And so, you know, a woman came in and actually was like, hey, we want to do this too. But, you know, it's for everyone. And it's just, yeah, for me to bring people together. And then the number is just for me to keep track of like my progress in life. Like, am I being committed to myself? Because, you know, I never know what's going to happen when I, you know, do the yoga circles. But at the end of the day, it's for me showing up for myself. And I realize when you show up for yourself, you're showing up for the world. So I always remind the people who come, like, thank you for showing up, because you for yourself. And guess what? You're going to take that throughout your day. So I try to just be a representation of how I live my life and my principles and my standards, and kind of like, I believe that energy of that energy just, you know, is contagious into other people's lives. Like, you know, let's keep track. Like, are we making progress? Because that's where happiness is found, is in the progress. You know, I can say I want to do 100 in the next 2 years. But when I reach 100, I'm going to want 200, or I'm going to do, you know, yoga circles around the world. But within each yoga circle, I actually find my happiness. I'm like, well, I did it because I was scared. I'm always scared. You know, we're always, and that's the unknown, right? Let me jump into the yoga number 6. It's the unknown. I don't know what's going to happen. Yoga number 7. And it's always a beautiful experience that I get to engage in.
And I bet that really, you have a lot of people that come back from one to the other?
Yes. So I'll have like, you know, people that come continuously, and then just people show up. The number 6, I think it was, that's when my family showed up. That was cool. Mom, my dad, my aunt, my little cousin. I was just like, well, how beautiful is this? Because one of my fears actually back then was, what if I can't be there emotionally for my family when they actually need me? What if I ran away? Which I was always like trying to hide, because I was going through my stuff. So I was like, wow, like this really came to fruition. Like, I am my family's medicine through yoga and through mindfulness practices. Like, you know, so it's just been such a blessing.
That's cool. You know, and one of the other things that I read, I don't remember if it was on your Facebook page or on Instagram, you know, is to take care of your body, we have to discipline our minds to focus on what's right rather than what's wrong. I resonated a lot with when I read that, because, you know, it's always like Mr. Rogers' mom told him when he was little and there was a tragedy that happened, don't focus on the tragedy, focus on the helpers. You know, there's always helpers. And if you focus on what's right, there's joy there. You know, there's always a joy to be found that can help bolster and get us through the things that aren't going so right. So I really resonated with that statement. I think it was on your Facebook page. But any comments on that?
Yes, I was just thinking about what you said earlier as well, like about being grateful, and you're grateful you're focusing on the beautiful things we have in our life at this moment. And yeah, we have a mindset and we have a choice. You know, we all have a choice. We can choose to focus on the bad things, or we can choose to focus on the good things. And just with like mindset work, I always tell my clients, do what you can with what you have now, and you'll have,
Mm-hmm.
because people chase what they don't have, and that's
Right.
why they have what they have. Because you can't chase anything because you already have what you need at the moment. So that's why don't chase that job. Don't be be happy with what you have now. And I learned that even if in my job I was like, that's so frustrating, like this, and I can make my whole list, but then I started to listening to Les Brown, motivation, Tony Robbins, like
Mm-hmm.
sermons, TJ Jakes, and really started listening to these people who already done it. So it's like we have all the things that we need. Like you said, on the helpers, there are people that will help you. And so I started just seeing on what I have now. So when I was going through my divorce and I had to move out, I was so scared because I never lived life like just really on my own.
Mm-hmm.
And then before that I was at home. So I'm like, how am I gonna pay rent? How am I gonna do this? And all this stuff made me just, like just sulk in
Right.
but I'm like, wait a minute. I do have I can ask someone. I can I signed up for therapy because at the point I really thought like, how can me having a master's in public health be going through this? Like I felt embarrassed.
Yeah.
So and then I was like, I didn't want to ask for help because I was like, no, strength comes from me figuring it out. No, strength comes from actually asking people for help, because all strong people go through what you're going through, just in different
Right. And I think one of the things that we look at is we see people's public face, and their public face, their Facebook, their Instagram, their Twitter is 99% the best, and people don't see all the other steps they took to get there. They see that they're have a great job, but they don't see the 5 failures that they had before they got the great job that got them to a place that they learned from, that they could get the great job.
Yeah.
And and unfortunately, I think social media can be a detriment in that respect. Is it only shows the end, it never shows the journey, and then we measure ourselves by the end, and we're still on a journey.
Yes. Yeah.
And until we realize that and look at our journey and look how far we've already come, we're never going to be happy with where we are.
Mm-hmm.
So it's definitely it's a blessing and a curse. It teaches us a lot. We can keep more in contact. I know social media last year was a great way for people to stay connected and things, but it can also be a curse when you're not mindful of the fact that you're only seeing the good stuff. You're not seeing any. I mean, a few people share some of the bad stuff, but most people only focus on the good stuff on social media, and it kind of warps reality. And that's not the way real life is. And then we try to judge by someone else's endpoint, and not what else is happening with them in their lives. So
Yes, thank you for bringing that up. That's such a good point. Like I have my clients do a social media detox because Instagram can ruin your mental health, and it has. It
mhm.
has shown, especially the younger generation. That's all they know. Like for
Right.
me, I know what it is not to have social media, and then now to have it. And that's why my social media started like 2017. Because before that, I got off. When you're going through something, you need to not be on social media at all. I was off of it for like a year, and I had promised myself, when I'm going to go on, I'm going to be positive. I'm going to be insightful. I'm going to show. I'm going to share. Like there's some posts that like I did share. Like I was going through a hard time, and doing all those, stop running to things to like suppress my emotions and actually
Mhm.
deal with them, and like just in real life, like. And so absolutely right, it could definitely distort people's mental health if especially if they're already not feeling confident about themselves, and without knowing it, I was everything's energy. So you're you're scrolling, but you're taking in the energy of that post. And
Right.
so, yeah, so social media detox is very good. and, follow people who are is inspirational to you in those sense. So yeah, you're right.
Yeah. And, really looking at the people in your lives that you spend a lot of time with, it's really important to make sure that they're the people you want to grow to, not people who are, who are dragging you down, because it really does make a huge difference when you hang out with the people that inspire you and help bring you up.
Mm-hmm.
So, hey, I want to thank you for joining me today. It's been great chatting with you. And let me put this is Domini's Instagram address for people who want to follow her. She's got some great posts out there, and it's I found some very inspiring when I went back and looked at some of the stuff. So thank you for joining me today. And if you hang out in the green room a second, let me just wrap up the show, and I'll be right back with you.
All right. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so blessed.
Oh, my pleasure. Isn't she a beautiful soul? Well, thanks for joining me today. We have a couple of interesting guests coming up, but I'm not quite sure the order, so I'm not going to tell you who they are yet. So, as always, I encourage you all to go out, make a connection, and live your best lives. And if you want more information about what I'm doing, you can find me. Actually, my next big adventure is my Adventures in Renewal, which is a mentoring program for men, which starts next Sunday. So now's a great time to enroll so that you don't miss out. And thanks for joining me, and live your best lives, people.